Let's talk social media. Let's face it, nowadays, if you're in business, you can't really avoid it, whether it's actually building an entire business around social media management and growth, or starting channels to make money, or sell products, or just run ads, or even organic reach. As a business person, and at any level, you really can't avoid social media and the power that it brings. So I wanted to touch on that today. So my journey, like my business journey in social media, is just now taking off. I made my first, dollar on social media. I got Meta to pay out, and I have been on this journey seriously for a couple of years now. I was a very late adapter. I think growing up in the country and growing up, through the military and through the kind of the traditional university system, I didn't value social media's power early on, to be in on things when they were kind of the golden era, right? But we're here now. I know, for example, YouTube is changing some things to make newer creators have an easier kind of inroad. But yeah, I'll tell you about my story, and I'll tell you kind of my thoughts on social media and how it is truly valuable and truly unavoidable. You got to look at it like online dating, right? 10, 15 years ago, people would laugh about you'd hide the fact that you had an online dating profile, but today it's like something like 50 or more percent of relationships are coming because of online dating, right? It's the same with social media now. Even the most stuffy of businesses, the big banks and the elites of the world, they're on social media now, and they're running ads and what have you, just like those of us on the bottom of the totem pole are. My journey is like a lot of people in my age group, right? 2006, you learn about Facebook, MySpace, etc. I was a late adopter to MySpace. I think I might have had it in high school. I'm not sure. I can't remember that far back anymore. But I know for sure I got on Facebook in 2006, and I maintained that account probably up until 2018 or something like that, until I kind of just, it became kind of a troll account, right? That's what we used those social media for, was trolling. Well, what you might not know is early in Facebook, it was actually a dating app, and I know they kind of brought that back. And just to give you an idea, my college town wasn't a huge city, but it wasn't a small town. And my friend and I messaged literally every girl in town that was on Facebook, and we actually got dates doing that. But you got to think how many girls were on Facebook in 2006 in a medium-sized town, a couple hundred maybe. So, and I know Facebook brought back dating, which is funny. That was going back to its roots, I guess, in some sort of way. But yeah, apart from that, social media was for trolling. And I never took it serious. I never understood the business value of the social media platforms. Always rejected Twitter for some reason. Twitter never clicked. To this day, X, and I understand it, but there's still some things that I don't do well on X, right? I have a hard time growing on X. I think I have, several accounts that are in the, mid hundred thousands range. And I use the old Twitter platform to mega troll, and you get kicked off Twitter in hours, days if you were lucky. It took to get kicked off if you were really trolling hard. In 2020, I started to take it serious. I had been seeing the business value. I had been seeing people really growing on YouTube and things like that. And even 2018 and things like that, I could see the power of Facebook and things like that for community building and groups and reaching like-minded individuals and things like that. So I was starting to see the value. So in 2020, I kind of went in on this. But I went in on some of the alt social medias. So you think like Minds and Rumble, because I felt like I had missed the boat on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, etc., you name it. So I started on the alts, and the alts were great. You get instant feedback, you get a little bit quicker validation, but you hit the ceiling really quickly. So let's say you get that in, the same engagement you might get on a mainstream platform right away versus 2 or 3 weeks down the road, but it stops really quickly because there's just not enough people on the platform. And you also notice that the platforms aren't well engineered. And so I got some insight into Rumble and talked to some engineers at Rumble. Found out, that they're using Kubernetes and things like that. And there was a major live stream coming. Like, it was known about for months. It's known about for years, right? But the actual event with the person, this big figure that was going to do the live event, he was going to do Rumble, and it was going to be a big deal, and Rumble crashed out. Rumble failed. And even though they knew about this, even though they had at this point millions of dollars in backing, they neglected their IT department, their tech department, their engineering department, right? And they failed. They dropped the ball massively. When Rumble launched stock, I bought Rumble stock. It tanked, right? Minds, I'm going to use Rumble and Minds because they're kind of like the safest adventures I ever had. Well, to be honest, the other social medias that I jumped on, they really did. They just stalled. I mean, there was just nothing. There was literally nothing. Post 2, 3, 4 times a day, and you were just posting into the ether. At least on Rumble, you did get a little bit of feedback and a little bit of views. But again, with Rumble and Minds, you were hitting your cap. Now on Minds, it was just the platform overall was just so buggy, and you'd have to go through all these hoops. And I'm still there. And there was a golden age of Minds right before I joined, where some of those creators were making thousands of dollars a month. Some of those creators were living off of their Minds in various ways or another. And so I got to see, kind of like when YouTube did the whole, when they pulled the rug out from a lot of the creators, and I don't know when that was. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I forget. It's kind of the same thing on Minds. Minds just dropped everybody's token payout. So when I get on there, I start making 1 or 2 cents a day, 10 cents a day. I think my best day on Minds is a couple of dollars, right? And so it's like, okay, cool. I can make, $30 a year on Minds. And what I would do with those tokens and stuff is I would just run them back into ads and things like that on Minds and see if I could get something out of it that way, there was some value in doing that, right? So in 2022, I had this friend reach out to me. He said, well, I'm making about $1,700 a month on Facebook. I said, what are you doing on Facebook? And he said he's doing reels and such. And I went on there and I said, well, this guy can do it. Anyone can, because this guy, I've known him for over 10 years, and he's always been the kind of guy that's like always right on the edge of eviction, right? The kind of guy that's living in his car for a little while, never wants to work, lives off other people, no life experiences to speak of, right? But if he can do it, anyone can do it. So I got on Facebook and I started to, genuinely give it a shot. And I switched themes, I guess you could say, too many times. I never could zero in my audience. I got monetized. At one point I had like over 8,000 followers. Now I'm down to 6 because I've had such a difficult time narrowing in on my niche, because I do that like so many other people do, is I lose momentum, or I lose consistency, or I'm chasing one shiny object or another. I finally have it narrowing down to a niche, and I got like I said, I'm starting to get paid. It's been a monetized account for 2 or 3 years now, and I'm just now starting to get paid, right? If that kind of gives you an example. I got on, like I said, X, Instagram, I got on YouTube. This isn't the first YouTube channel. So when I say I'm starting to see some success in media, social media in particular, I consider YouTube social media, and I consider social media business, right? I don't look at this channel, right? Because as of filming this, it's got like, 1 view across the whole channel. But I have had other forays into YouTube, other forays into video content creation, AI content creation. I actually want to talk about courses and things I've done in another video. I don't really think that's the place for this. I will kind of warn you, a lot of the courses out there, they overpromise and underdeliver. I'm not saying they're worthless. I'm saying, be careful, right? Like, you can find a lot of this material online, and maybe as we have these conversations, I can kind of drop some hints and things like that I've learned over the years. Again, don't judge this channel. This channel's for me a lot of ways, but it's also, if my story helps a few people, that's awesome. Like pitfalls, all the pitfalls I've hit, and I'm gonna elaborate on that. And we're gonna go into that with social media. Like, what's the biggest pitfall I've hit in social media? Like, be it YouTube, be it Facebook, whatever, is consistency. If you're not consistent daily, you're not going to grow. You're not going to go anywhere. And so you got to be consistent on all the platforms. And that's like the number one rule. Everyone's, you might find other creators who are like, don't worry about the camera, use your phone. I have a camera. It's, it's not the best, but it's not bad. I need to dial in my sound, right? I don't have an external mic. The mic I have, I use for screen shares, and it's not that great. But consistency is number one. And then from there, it's just don't try to get controversial too fast, right? Unless that's your thing. Don't drink and film, right? There's a good one. Just, walk a middle path for a little while until you kind of find your audience and then go with them. Because the moment you do one thing that's a little bit too far one direction, and that, when I say extreme, I'm not talking about politically, I'm talking about a business idea that's too radical for the audience, something like that. You need to feel out your audience a little bit better. And you can't quit when you get that first, wave of controversy. So yeah, 2022, I start taking social media seriously. I get monetized on Facebook. I'm running several Instagram accounts. I'm growing a few Twitter accounts, X accounts, which, like I told you earlier, aren't doing that great because you can grow on X, but it's a grind. It's a little bit tougher than other platforms. Like Instagram. Instagram's a little bit tougher than other platforms for whatever reason. Unless, you're a certain type of content, then you blow up quick. So I have had some success with video. And that's one of the things with these like faceless YouTube channels and things like that. I've done some good work there, but again, that's very time consuming. You're not going to see a return right away. And I did take one of the big courses on it. I will say, like I said, over promised, under delivered, right? These big courses, I guess I'm glad I did it, right? So I can report back to the rest of the world. They're very expensive. And they say something, I think I signed up in November or December, and the guy was like, oh, we can get you monetized by February. And it's like, okay, none of what they promised ever happened. There was never any one-on-one, real one-on-one. And there was like an obligatory one-on-one that was very much this vein of, there's a vein on the internet with some of the guys on the internet where it's like, I'm trying so hard to be indifferent, or I'm trying so hard to be, a little bit mean, right? Or something like that. Just that they're just trying so hard to be indifferent that it's just so obvious, right? So I really didn't get anything out of the one-on-one. They put you in these coaching things and then they criticize you when you don't know what you're doing. Things like that, right? So I would be very weary of these very expensive, coach book times, and you go through the course and then you have this, class time. I've been through 3 of these for 3 completely different subjects, and I just can't recommend them to you. I think that's a pitfall that I would avoid. You can find the info on YouTube. Like, let's say you want to make a YouTube channel, you want to learn how to grow, the info's out there. I mean, even if you just use ChatGPT to help you, it's going to be just as good as anything else. And then the courses will try to tell you, well, yeah, you can learn all this outside of the course, but we streamline it for you. You get bogged down in tutorial hell. Just be real with you. You get bogged down. The classes, they want to put out content for the sake of putting out content to say, hey, look, I have a 40-hour class. It's like that in engineering. When I took the AWS Certified Architect, the course is like 60 hours. You don't need 60 hours. It's a lot easier than you think it is. Yeah, the exam itself is hard. I guess hard in that it's a marathon, not a sprint. But they overkill, right? They're fluffing everything up. And then the coaching, man, it's hit or miss. It's not there. It's not where it needs to be. I've never found any one of these coaching courses that really deliver at all. It's just, you can tell that they're there to sell, to move units, and to let it go. And that's going to be part of this channel too. I want to talk about like how we're doing business, right? How we're doing technology and advancing in our careers. But I do want to touch on what people are doing wrong out there. I think if someone who really had success on YouTube and really wanted to coach other people on how to have success on YouTube could come in and do really good business. The problem is to my knowledge, nobody out there is really teaching it and doing it right. So if you watching this know how to grow on YouTube, and whether that be a talking head, a faceless channel, a travel channel, I don't know, whatever it is, right? If you know how to do it, I would say what you know how to do, what you've done. And then when you coach people, actually coach them, actually get them from 0 to 1,000, actually, get them monetized, right? Actually work with them instead of trying to be aloof, instead of trying to, I don't know, put the weight back on the person. Yeah, it's up to them to do the work, but it's up to you to guide and coach, right? So coaching, like I said, I guess I've been through even more than the 3, but just through radically different platforms and in radically different contexts. And I have found online coaching to be not the best. And I found communities to be okay, but not the best. A lot of people fall off. Trust me, we're going to do entire videos on this. I'm going to review some things, and you're going to kind of get an insight into how it's a business first, not a passion, and how they treat it badly. So with social media, that's my journey. I went from completely indifferent and uninterested country boy, couldn't care less, to 2020, 2022 embracing modern business, modern entrepreneurship, modern methods for I've been in business to the point where we knocked on doors. I've been in business to the point where we went office to office. So I need to embrace this new way of doing things, and I do see the value, right? And so I want to just impart to anyone watching this that it's consistency, and it's pivoting when you need to pivot, and it's just kind of jumping in and learning. This is part of a 100 video challenge, right? So I'm just talking, I'm getting used to being on camera, I'm getting used to putting content on, and maybe that's what you need to do, is just dive in, share your stories, hope somebody gets something out of your story, and move on and see where it takes you. So that's where I'm at. Starting to see some success, starting to see some growth, starting to see some movement, and most importantly, I've crystallized my direction. So now I actually have a direction. Now I actually have a bit of a purpose too, right? What do we talk about? This channel's purpose is freedom, specifically financial freedom. So you can gain a lot more freedom. You can get a lot closer to freedom when you have financial freedom. That's kind of the backbone. Like you can't do something amazing or some charity or something like that if you're broke. Because then when you're broke, you're stuck in the broke cycle. Right now I'm not in a broke cycle, but I'm in a career cycle. There's always the sword of Damocles hanging over my head. Layoffs, firings, someone doesn't like you, they can get you fired, etc. You're never truly secure. So you can't do your work that needs to be done until you have that sense of security. That's the way I look at it. So that's my journey. Hopefully we grow, this channel and whatever kind of community comes of it, and we all move forward together. All right, I'll talk to you later.